Salutations fam, this is Dark Slayer from Haltessiagaming, and in today's video, I'm going to be covering the deck that I played at my OTS Championship Finals. Yeah, not going to spend too much time on it. Yeah, I played Branded Eldritch Dogmatika. So, going into this event, I wanted to play a deck that I felt not necessarily beat everything in the format, but more so didn't have any bad matchups. Because I didn't want to put, I wanted to leave as little to luck as possible. There's a lot of things in the format where if you lose a die roll against them, you just kind of lose the game immediately. And this is probably the only deck that I could have played that doesn't auto lose to a lot of that stuff while still having a high enough power ceiling to still be able to like win the game going first and whatnot. There's things like Scythe Block, there's the King Calamities, there's like Flunder with Shifter and the Barrier Statue. There's things like Mystic Mine. Like there's a lot of things in the format where if it, goes off, you just lose. And yeah, so that's why I chose to play this deck. Yeah, without further ado, I'm just gonna go ahead and hop into the list. I'll talk about cards as they come up. So, yeah, I am playing one copy of Aluber, the Jester of Despia. I only own one copy, so we play one. I'm playing a copy of Spriggan's Kit. Again, well, this is basically just like another copy of this that you can summon off of Sprin the Iron Dash Dragon. Typically, you would want to see this, and I probably will eventually play more of this, but I didn't dislike this. I did, some of this a couple of times. It just, that extra starter to maintain your consistency rate. And then I'm playing two copies of Fallen of Albaz. Yeah, the standard engine. And moving on, we have one copy of Dogmatika Ecclesia and two copies of Fleur-de-Lis. So, interesting thing, I wanted to play a second Fleur-de-Lis because there were a lot of times in testing where I would find myself thinking, wow, I wish I had another monster to search so that I could get value off of something like Titaniclad. And honestly, like drawing this is not that bad. Like it does help you push for game. Sometimes, if you open both of these, you get to Special Ecclesia and activate the effect. And then when they like chain the negate, you get to like chain the Fleur-de-Lis in hand to like push the effect through. So you can get your punishment and things like that. So I didn't dislike, two Fleur-de-Lis at all. And then I'm playing two Golden Lord. This is pretty standard, two Golden Lord for the Eldritch Engine. And then for main deck hand traps, I'm playing triple copies of Droll and Lockbird. Yeah, going into this format, there is a lot of searching, so I wanted to make sure that I had something that hit pretty much every deck. And this, hit pretty much every deck that I was expecting to play against. It hits Flunder, hits, Branded Despia, hits, the Punk decks, which is what I was expecting to see the most of. And sometimes it hits Sword Soul if they like start with Emergence, it can like really shut them down. And this actually was relevant in my Sword Soul matchups because both games he went Emergence, I was able to draw them. And then we got two copies of Nibiru the Primal Being, Punk Therion, Sword Soul. Like there's a lot of decks in the format that are playing into this now, so remaining Nib, good card. And that's going to be it for the monster lineup. And moving on to the spells, we got triple copies of Pot of Prosperity. So this is a card that is very good, but and it's one of those like if you have it, play it, but it's not like the deck is unplayable without Prosperity. You can definitely play the deck with Extrav, and I have played the deck with Extrav in the past, but it's just Prosperity being able to dig for 6 just really gives this card a power level that is just unlike any other consistency card I've ever seen. It never actually mattered where I needed to like dig for 6 and it was like the 6th card or something like that. Pretty much every single time that I activated, I saw what I needed within the first 2 cards. So in theory at this event, I kind of did wish this was extra because I would have gotten the extra +1. But if you have Prosperities, you should probably play Prosperities. But if you want to play this deck and you don't have Prosperity, you can definitely play Extrav. You would just have to like make some adjustments to the extra deck. And then 3 copies of the best card in the deck. We got 3 branded fusion. Yeah, not really much to say about this card. This card's broken, and it's really insane that this engine was in a structure deck. Yeah, the Alban structure deck, one of the best things that Konami has released in a really long while, and I really appreciate it. Then we got 2 copies of Nadir Servant. Really broken card. I don't know why people stop playing the Dogmatika engine. It's just really strong advantage. You can kind of play it in any deck. You can just do your plays and then end with Nadir, similar to like Fusion Destiny, but this card is just, it's really, really dumb. Yeah. And then we have 1 copy of Elixir of White Destiny. So one of the problems that I was running into with, you know, a lot of my different decks was, you know, basically what happens in this format a lot is like both players will have that really explosive turn, like their first turn. And then like if a player hasn't lost the game by that point, it goes into the grind game. So I wanted to make sure that this deck wouldn't lose in the grind game. And I didn't lose a single grind game. I was able to like, you know, outlast my opponent every single time. And the 1 White Destiny really did come up because in my final match, it actually did come down to the last card. And, you know, that's why I'm running, you know, just the 1 extra White Destiny to be able to have that 1 extra card to, like, make my engine last a little bit longer. And then we've got Instant Fusion, Called by the Grave, and the 1 copy of Forbidden Droplet that I own. I only own 1 droplet, so we play the 1 droplet. If you have a broken power card, it does not matter if you don't have 3 copies, play your broken power cards. Yeah, droplet's really good. Called by is really good. Instant fusion's really good. I saw this a lot. I saw this a pretty high number of times, actually. Great card, going second into boards, being able to summon Millenniumize to kind of like help you play through that board. Because one thing about Millenniumize that a lot of people may overlook is that Millenniumize does not have to target the monster that activated. It's just if your opponent activates something, or activates a monster effect, you get to just target any monster on their field or engrave, and then just like equip it and negate it. So it's like if they, like, let's say they have Heat Soul, right? And you have Millenniumize. They go Heat Soul effect to draw. You can go Millenniumize effect, target Baron, you know? It's pretty cool. And then the last spell, we got 2 copies of Super Polymerization in the main. This card is absolutely insane, broken, especially in a deck like this where you have the space in your extra deck to be able to make it extra broken. Yeah, then moving on to the trap cards, we've got Eldritch Engine, 3 Sanguine, triple Conch, double Hakuero. Yeah, the Eldritch Engine is extremely powerful. It's a large part of why I don't really have any losing matchups. If my opponent Cyclops me, I can just play Dogmatika Eldritch. If my opponent hits me with the Calamity line, I can just set cards. If my opponent, you know, does a lot of the like random turn-long floodgates like D-Barrier, and this actually was relevant in one of my matches, they saw the branded stuff, you know, game 1, and they sided in D-Barrier, and then game 2, actually this happened twice now that I think about it, they sided in D-Barrier, and they went D-Barrier, Call Fusion, and then I didn't have any branded stuff, and I literally just played Dogmatika Eldritch, and I won the game. So yeah, the Eldritch Engine, and then we have the 1 copy of Dogmatika Punishment, then the 1 copy of Branded Banishment. This card most recently came out of Dimension Force. It's a very powerful card. Allows you to just like super poly your opponent's board. Pretty strong. Punishment is also very strong. You know, gives you that extra utility with your extra deck. And then lastly, we have 2 copies of Skill Drain in the main. Really broken card. Just kind of auto wins a lot of the time. So yeah, that's going to be it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. The main deck is a nice even 40 cards. Moving on to the extra deck. We have the 1 copy of Mirror Jade. Yeah, I wanted more utility in my extra deck, so I'm only playing, you know, playing a smaller engine size with a lot of stuff just so I can have like more toolbox in here. 1 copy of Lubellion, 2 Albion, 1 Titaniclad, 1 Sprind. So the logic behind Sprind is that obviously, like, if it gets sent to the grave, you get to special summon the Spriggan's Kit. But the main reason you play this is so that you don't auto lose to like Contact. Is it Contact C? Is it Contact C or like I think it's Contact C. But the one where it's like if you summon it to their field, they have to use it to be able to like go in their extra deck or something like that. So like you do this so that if you go Albion effect or Lubellion effect and they summon Contact C to your board, that you can still play because you get to like clear the Contact C by going into this. And then, you know, obviously have that utility where you can send it to grave to get follow-up. And then we have the one Abolenatus. This card's really, really strong. You can send it to your graveyard to get your searches in rotation. And obviously there's the powerful ability to be able to contact fuse and things like that, even though it didn't come up because nobody was playing Dragon Link. Yeah. Moving on, we have... let's move that out of frame so we're not having the glare. The one copy of Elder Entity Entis. Punishment target, get the double pop. Nadir, clear floodgates, clear monsters and all that. One copy of Mud Dragon, one copy of Starving Venom, one copy of Dragostapelia, and one copy of Mad Golden Lord for Super Poly targets. One thing about Super Poly as well that I really like is that in addition to being able to help break boards, because of what deck you're playing, it's not dead even if your opponent's not putting up any monsters that you can Super Poly, because you can Super Poly your own cards to help like push for damage and things like that, and that's something I actually did a lot. Yeah. And then we have the one copy of Psyframe Lord Omega. This is just another like punishment target that you can use to recycle your stuff, and it's part of the reason why I can get away with playing like only one copy of a lot of things, because I can just put it back with Omega, and that effect is not once per turn. Sometimes your opponents will negate it, not realizing that it's not once per turn, and you just do it again. One copy of, you know, Gustav Max. So the thing is, I'm only playing the Gustav Max. I'm not playing the lead because I didn't really want to dedicate the space for it. And you mainly just play this so you can help like close out games with the burn anyway. And that's like the main thing about it, is just having the burn effect to help you close out games. And then the one Millennium I restrict to accompany the instant fusion. Card's really, really insane. So yeah, that's going to be it for the extra deck. Moving on to the side deck, we're going to be having... Let me go ahead and move all my stuff out of the way. Move it out of the way. Are these the tokens? These are the tokens. Okay. Yeah, I have my tokens. The tokens. But yeah, moving on to the side deck, we've got triple copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. When I was going first, I wanted to be able to side this in to be able to have like just that extra bit of like another layer to the deck, basically. A lot of times people will side in like blowout cards like Duster and Lightning Storm, and like this card just kind of helps deal with that. And also just having this monster that summons itself as an extra 3k body helps you get into Gustav Max, helps push damage on board, and gets you follow up because you can set stuff like Nadir and Sanguine and whatnot. And then we have the third copy of Nibiru, third copy of Nibiru, third copy of Super Poly, and the third copy of Skill Drain. Just, you know, you just kind of adjust more based on like whatever matchup you're playing to kind of like hard counter it. And then we've got triple copies of Dark Ruler No More. With the King Calamity line, you kind of have to have something like this. With the Naturity or Rose Whip line, you have to have something like this. Again, there's just a lot of stuff in the format where it's like, if it goes off, you just kind of lose the game. So you need to have like these heavy hitter cards to be able to like stop it and have a chance. So yeah, 3 Dark Ruler, triple copies of Evenly Match. This won me one of my matches against Punk Therion, because it was like Brave Punk Therion, I think. My hand was something ridiculous like Nadir, Golden Lord, Sanguine, double evenly, or something like that. I was able to force-side its negates and then evenly him, and then he had to keep the token, and it was just oof. So yeah, I ended up winning that game, winning that match. All of my matches were 2-0 actually, so that was pretty cool. And then lastly, the dark horse of the format, the evil monster that Konami should have banned a long, long time ago. 3 copies of Mystic Mine. Yeah, this card, it's a card you have to respect in the format. You have to acknowledge that it exists. Because if you don't, you can just randomly lose to it. A lot of decks do have, like, native outs to it. But it's like you have to respect that this card exists because, like, let's say you use your out already. Like, you use your out on something else, and then they just stick mine. You just lose. So that's another reason why I chose to play this deck, because this deck does not lose to Mystic Mine because of Conquistador. Whereas, like, even if I, like, pop something with Conquistador because I got 2 more in the deck, if they stick mine, I can just, you know, get to Conquistador and out the mine. So, and then also, like, if my opponent does the Scythe Lock, or like the Scythe Lock, the Naturia Rose Whip thing, right? You can just activate mine, and even if they have like Regulus to negate the effect for a turn, that's fine because it just turns back on their turn. So yeah, Mystic Mine, kind of an auto win card. Definitely a card that I really hope Konami bans at some point, but while it's still legal, well, we're gonna play the broken cards. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the deck. Yeah, all of my matches were 2-0. It was a very, very fulfilling event. It felt good to be able to do well at this event after having, like, you know, maintained my my top placing on the leaderboard over the course of the entire season. Yeah, it's pretty much the end of the competitive season. Well, for this season anyway. I don't know when they're going to announce the next one. But yeah, that pretty much it covers the deck profile. There's not really much else to say. If you like this video, leave a like, leave a comment, all that jazz. Check the description. I typically leave helpful links in there. This has been Darkslayer Arim from Haltessiagaming. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Now the question, our favorite question is, will the button work?